Hello and welcome to another edition of the Morning Brew. Today is Wednesday, the 12th of August 2020. My name is Jessie Leonce, bringing you today the latest developments coming from the government of St. Lucia. This is the NTN Morning Update, really. We'd like to welcome you watching on air online, residents of St. Lucia, St. Lucians in the diaspora, well-wishers globally. A special good morning to you. Thank you for tuning in, staying abreast as to what is happening in this beautiful island of ours. We did get an update on the state of things COVID-19 wise from the authorities, and that was aired live on air NTN last night. And we got an update, still concerns over the illicit border entry. We had Milton Daisy, the acting commissioner of police, speaking on that issue. We also had just a reinforcement of the protocols coming from the authorities in terms of the protocols for persons traveling within the bubble countries, speaking on bubblecation, as well as, in contrast, the protocols that exist for individuals who are coming from high-risk areas, individuals who are coming from places that are not part of the bubble. So I do encourage you to take a listen after this program. Take a listen to the update to the nation that was aired live on NTN last night. You can watch it on our Facebook page and also our YouTube channel. And I do understand that there were some other stations, private media houses carrying that update to the nation as well. We at NTN will be providing you with the details, something more comprehensive to the update in a subsequent broadcast. Meantime, phase 1 of the Viewfort water supply redevelopment project officially is launched. We have the details to that coming up in our broadcast this morning. CARICOM commits to reducing its US $5 billion food import bill by 25% in the next 5 years. The details to that coming up. And also St. Lucia, remember St. Lucian singer and cultural icon Dame Marie Salifa Descartes, affectionately known as Cecile. Yesterday was the 10th anniversary of her passing, a cultural icon, one that is etched forever in the hearts and minds of St. Lucians. We have the details to these stories and more coming up after this break. We do hope you could stay tuned to what is this morning, the Morning Brew, the NTN Morning Update, bringing you the latest developments from the government of St. Lucia. Stay with us.
She's been watching, waiting, wondering when the sands of time will give way to a tide of change, and for yesterday and today to become a new tomorrow, for a time when her sun can kiss the cheeks of your loved one and her stars can twinkle in her honeymoon skies, when her earthly embrace will reassure and calm your soul, and her unique view can change your whole perspective. Proudly, she has risen to meet new challenges and to provide safe harbor to all who reach her shores. For her hopes and dreams still stand shoulder to shoulder, a precious reminder of experiences yet to come. So, wherever your moments and memories take you, let her sense of adventure set you free. She is St. Lucia. Let her inspire you.
Thank you for staying tuned. If you're just joining us, a special good morning to you. This is the Morning Brew, NTN's Morning Update, bringing you the latest developments from the government of St. Lucia. Today is Wednesday. It's Hump Day, 12th August 2020. We're midweek. We do hope you are keeping safe. We did have some heavy rains over the course of the night. We do hope you have carried with you the umbrella. We're not sure what's happening with the weather today, so we do hope that you are playing it safe, carrying your umbrella and whatever else that you need to keep safe from the rain. It's hurricane season. We hope you're preparing, and it's also COVID season. We don't know how long that's going to last, but it's the new normal, essentially, and we do hope you're taking the necessary precautions for that as well. Continuing with the news this morning, St. Lucia, the government of St. Lucia has launched another project. Phase 1 of the Vieux Fort water supply redevelopment is now launched. It was officially launched and joins the list of several water supply improvement projects currently ongoing island-wide. The Vieux Fort water supply system has been in dire need of expansion and upgrades to meet the existing and projected demand, and will benefit commercial and institutional enterprises and a population of an estimated 20,000 individuals in the south of the island. We do have a report from Anicia Antoine.
The government of St. Lucia recently held a sword-turning ceremony to mark the official commencement of Phase 1 of the Vieux Fort water supply redevelopment project. The Vieux Fort water supply system for many years now has been in need of urgent expansion and upgrades so as to adequately meet the current demand from residents of Vieux Fort, Labrie and environs, as well as future demands. The scope of work includes the construction of water production facilities, installation of new HDPE transmission mains, and 3 new storage reservoirs, among other interventions. Commercial and institutional enterprises, together with an estimated population of 20,000 people, are expected to benefit from the water supply. Francis Dengue is the chairman of WASCO's board of directors.
Water supply in the south has been unreliable and inconsistent in both the dry and rainy season due to the inadequacy of the existing system. During periods of intense rainfall, the turbidity of the raw water rises significantly above an acceptable level. During the dry season, and on account of climate change, the quantity of water available from the existing intake decreases significantly. This often leads to extended periods of water shortages in the area. These water supply constraints in the area have curtailed tourism and other industrial development plans in the south. In fact, during this drought, the Vieux Fort River literally dried up in various sections. The Vieux Fort water supply system is therefore in need of an urgent upgrade to meet existing and projected demand and to protect public health.
Phase 1 of this project is scheduled to be completed in September 2021, with Phase 2 to be completed in March of 2022. Phase 1 cost some $14.1 million, and Phase 2 will be installed at a cost of $6.9 million. The government of St. Lucia and the Water and Sewage Company, WASCO, have contributed $4.2 million. Minister for Agriculture, Fisheries, Physical Planning, Natural Resources and Cooperatives, Honorable Ezekiel Joseph, reaffirmed the government's commitment to bolstering WASCO's capacity to deliver a clean and reliable water supply. The minister, expressing gratitude to stakeholders involved in the project, called on residents to exercise patience as the works may bring inconveniences and delays.
We believe in the people. We believe that water is life. We believe that as a government, we need to develop and implement projects that impact the people, and that is what we are doing here today. So, based on discussion with the Honorable Prime Minister, he said, look, Mr. Minister, we are going to look for the resources because we need to finish the project in its entirety. There's no need to make this project what you call in a halfway. We need to do the entire project, and he has given a commitment to get the additional $6 million, what we call a Phase 2, so we can finish this project for everyone in Vieux Fort to benefit.
The Prime Minister of St. Lucia, Honorable Alan Chasney, stated that improvements in the water supply system are imminent as this vital utility must be reliable and able to support the growth and development of the South. The Prime Minister expressed gratitude to the Line Minister and the Chairman of WASCO's Board of Directors for their efforts in developing the water systems in St. Lucia.
What Ezekiel Joseph as the Minister and Mr. Dembo have achieved in the last 4 years is remarkable, really. The dam, that money was being collected, but no work was being done. Dengue, Miku, Soufriere, and now Vieux Fort. All these places were in dire need of capacity, and they have delivered on their promise, and they have delivered and put capacity in, which now allows the government to expand. And that's really what I wanted to focus on today, is that this water project is critical in developing the capacity of the South.
The sword-turning ceremony to mark the official commencement of Phase 1 of the Vieux Fort Water Supply Redevelopment Project took place on Thursday, August 6, 2020, on the grounds of the water treatment plant in Bossé-Joux. From the Government Information Service, I am Anicia Antoine reporting.
Thank you for that news report, Anicia. Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Economic Growth, Job Creation, External Affairs and the Public Service, the Honorable Alan Chasney, is currently on leave until August 22nd, 2020. In the Prime Minister's absence, the Minister for Economic Development, Housing, Urban Renewal, Transport and Civil Aviation, the Honorable Guy Joseph, serves as acting Prime Minister. Please take note of that. In more news, the Caribbean community commits to reducing its US $5 billion food import bill by 25% in the next 5 years, also known as the 25 in 5 plan, as it implements food and nutrition programs. CARICOM explained that the vulnerabilities of CARICOM member states have made it even more evident the need for food security in the region. We have a report on that 25 in 5 plan.
The 25 in 5 plan, according to CARICOM's Assistant Secretary General, Trade and Economic Integration, Joseph Cox, is not simply a slogan, but an imperative that must be addressed within the context of food security in the region. The Assistant Secretary General explained that food insecurity is currently being fueled by a high food import bill, high incidence of non-communicable diseases, and the adverse consequences of climate change and extreme weather. The Caribbean Community Agriculture Policy CAP underpins the 25 in 5. Cox noted the guiding regional food security policies and instruments for the Caribbean region are mainly the Regional Food and Nutrition Security Policy and Action Plan and the Common Fisheries Policy, which are further supported by the recently approved CARICOM COVID-19 Agri-Food Plan. The main pillars of the action plan are food availability, food access, food utilization, nutritional adequacy, and stability of food supply.
25 in 5 recognizes that with the exception of Belize and Guyana, all other CARICOM countries are net food importers, with at least 7 of these countries importing more than 80% of the food they consume, resulting in the region's annual food import bill being estimated at $5 billion in 2019. From a food security and nutritional adequacy standpoint, the region, which is highly dependent on food imports through wheat, fresh produce, dairy, meats, etc., needs to ensure that the supply chain for key products continues uninterrupted, even while continuing to seek opportunities for import substitution. CARICOM countries must have plans in place to safeguard against these realities ever becoming a serious challenge or threat to our food security.
CARICOM strategies to achieve the reduction in the food import bill must be grounded in a multi-organizational framework. This, Cox explained, should be reinforced by multilateral support, particularly in the areas of policy intervention, institutional strengthening, investment, and sector financing. He explained that over the years, CARICOM member states continue to record encouraging results as they have implemented food and nutrition interventions. The Assistant Secretary General added, however, that the COVID-19 pandemic has made the need for food security even more apparent today.
And we are absolutely committed to reducing the region's food import bill by at least 25% over the next 5 years. In other words, 25 in 5. The COVID-19 pandemic has further highlighted the need to ensure affordable access to food. This, in our case, has led to the development of the CARICOM COVID-19 Response Agri-Food Plan. The plan has been specifically designed to treat with effective access and the optimization of production. It further outlines the specific steps which must be taken within the CARICOM region to ensure that the health crisis does not become a food crisis. We have been lucky thus far, as the region has not had a shortage of food per se, but a temporary misalignment of supply and demand occasioned by supply chain disruptions.
The Assistant Secretary General, Trade and Economic Integration, spoke of the 25 in 5 plan while addressing a webinar that was focused on galvanizing multilateral action to prevent the health crisis from becoming a food crisis workshop on the formulation of a regional food and nutrition security policy in the Caribbean, which was held with support from the Food and Agriculture Organization project promoting CARICOM CARIFORUM Food Security, Phase 2. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
Thanks for that report, Janelle. We are due for another break this morning. I did say that we'll be providing you with a more comprehensive report on the update to the nation that was aired last night. We will be providing that to you in an update later this evening in our nightly news. But after we come from this break, I will just provide you with just a brief summary, a synopsis of what transpired during the live broadcast, the update to the nation last night. Stay tuned for that and other news coming from the government of St. Lucia.
Better yet, use soap and water. We must protect each other if we are to beat this corona.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. Be a soldier, together we can beat this corona.
So you don't become the next case. Avoid touching your face. I'm sure you've been told so. Handshakes and hugging are up. No, no.
Advice, give you the please. Cover your mouth and your nose if you cough or sneeze.
Practice social distancing and avoid large social gatherings.
Together let us win this war. Be a soldier for St. Lucia. Together let us win this war. St. Lucia, be a soldier. Together we can beat this corona.
For further information, please contact the hotline at 311 or the Bureau of Health Education at 468-5349.
The Morning Brew. We continue with updates from the government of St. Lucia for you this morning with the dengue cases. Just want to remind you of that. The Ministry of Health and Wellness expresses concern as the island continues to record significant increases in reported cases of dengue. We touched on this yesterday, but it is important that we come back to this very alarming situation. We have an alarming increase of cases, and of course it's no different to every year, but you know that we don't want to have anybody in our population being prone to falling victim to dengue or any illness for that matter. So we do hope that you are doing your part to ensure that your surroundings are clean. You know, your home is just around your home, all receptacles doesn't have any water or anything like that. We go to a report from speaking, the national epidemiologist is speaking to the general public, urging members of the public to take all the necessary precautions to safeguard themselves and their loved ones, especially as cases peak during this rainy season. So take a listen.
The Ministry of Health and Wellness has noted a significant increase in reported cases of dengue in St. Lucia. Dengue is a viral illness spread by the bite of the Aedes aegypti mosquito, which lives in urban habitats and breeds mostly in man-made containers. Dengue is endemic to St. Lucia, which means that there is continued local transmission, which often peaks during and after the rainy season. There are 4 distinct but closely related serotypes of the virus that cause dengue, that is 1, 2, 3, and 4. National epidemiologist in the Ministry of Health and Wellness, Dr. Michelle Fassois, indicated that the ministry is very concerned about the increases as both serotypes 2 and 3 have been recorded to date, with quite a few infections in children. The national epidemiologist explained that majority of the reported cases are predominantly in the northern, central and eastern parts of the island. Cases have been reported in a number of areas including Redwe, Mon Road, Castries City, Millet and Ridge 4. Cases have also been reported in the south and west of the island, but to a significantly lesser extent.
Normally, when an individual is infected with one serotype, he or she receives lifelong immunity. However, if an individual is infected with a second type of dengue, a second serotype, he or she is likely to face a more severe clinical picture on the second infection. And this is why this is particularly concerning to us in St. Lucia, that we have two serotypes in circulation. The virus, dengue viral disease, has an incubation of 4 to 10 days after the bite. And by the incubation period, I'm referring to the type between when the individual is infected and starts manifesting signs and symptoms. About 3/4 of the infections of dengue virus is asymptomatic, meaning that the person does not have any signs or symptoms, or it produces a very mild infection, which is normally difficult to differentiate from other illnesses.
The national epidemiologist noted that the symptoms of dengue can be confused with that of the flu and COVID-19. Persons with mild dengue, however, may present with fever, accompanied by a rash, nausea or vomiting, pain behind the eye, muscle and joint pain. In its more severe form, persons may progress to bleeding from the gum or nose, vomiting blood and passing blood in stool. They may also experience severe abdominal pain and or excessive vomiting, which may lead to dehydration. Dr. Fassois indicated that there is no specific treatment for dengue and management is supportive based on clinical presentation.
Testing for dengue is available in St. Lucia, and the Ministry of Health and Wellness urges persons who may be experiencing signs and symptoms of dengue to seek help at any of the nearest wellness centers. Now, because the vector requires water to breed, this is why we notice its peak during the rainy season. When the rains come in, the vector tends to breed in the smallest of receptacles. So what we're asking the general public to do is assist in eliminating the breeding grounds for the vector, and in that way we can control the spread of dengue in St. Lucia. So we ask persons to do frequent checks around the home, ensure that your buckets, your covers, everything is turned over, and monitor your yard, both inside and outside of your homes, to ensure that you do not have breeding.
Members of the public are advised to avoid the indiscriminate dumping of garbage, which also serves as breeding grounds for the mosquito, and adhere to the scheduled garbage collection days and times. If one has been diagnosed with dengue, the Ministry of Health and Wellness advises that they sleep under a mosquito net to avoid being bitten by the mosquito. The use of insect repellent is also recommended to control the spread of dengue virus. From the Government Information Service, I am Janelle Norville.
Thanks for that report, Janelle. And now to some hurricane season waste management tips from the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority. Secure waste in a dry location until collection day. Clean up debris around your home that can become airborne. Make a special effort to prevent waste from being washed out into waterways. Also, in the event of a disaster, waste collection will be suspended on the day of the expected weather system. And we've so far seen that with the last weather system we were anticipating. We did hear from the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority that there would be no waste collection on that day. Also, do not place waste out until the all clear has been issued by the National Emergency Management Organization, NEMO. We have cases perhaps that you might not have received the word, but if you are aware, please tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a neighbor that they should not put out their waste until the all clear has been issued. Pay attention to the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority's official Facebook, WhatsApp, and website for updates on the resumption of its services. So keep your ears to the ground. Make sure you're signed up to all of these platforms of the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority, all of these state agencies pretty much, to get an understanding of what will be happening. It's important to be connected to these agencies, especially during the hurricane season. We saw how it benefited many persons in terms of the income support program, the economic relief program from the NIC. Many persons liked and subscribed and what have you to their Facebook platform and whatnot to get updates as to when they can sign up, as to how they can sign up and so on. So it's important to keep watching the Facebook pages of these agencies for important updates on the country. So these tips coming from the St. Lucia Solid Waste Management Authority, hurricane season waste management tips. I hope you do take note of that. And finally, in terms of our news updates for the morning, St. Lucia's Queen of Folk and cultural icon Dame Marie Salifa Sesen Descartes passed away on August 11th, 2010. And yesterday marked 10 years, a decade since she passed. She left an indelible mark, having lived a life dedicated to contributing richly to the island's cultural landscape. In observance of a decade since her passing, NTN featured famed violinist Augustin Julian, better known as Charlie, here in studio. He performed some popular renditions of the late Chantuelle. And we do have a report, just a look back, a report on that edition of the Morning Brew yesterday morning. Take a look. It has been 10 years since St. Lucia's Queen of Folk, Dame Marie Salifa Descartes, passed on, but the memory of her music as a chanterelle extraordinaire remains etched in the hearts and minds of cultural enthusiasts and all St. Lucians by extension. A Miku native, Dame Sesen, as she was widely known, began her career at the age of 8 years old. Marilyn Hyacinth, member of the Folk Research Center, gave insight into this early beginning.
Sesen's father, Sonny, started a Laos group in Magwetut, and he wanted a chanterelle. And he just thought that Sesen had what it took at 8 years to be that chanterelle, and he informed the mother, his wife, that Sesen will be the chanterelle, and the mother probably just accepted. And Sesen came on. She sang and she rocked the crowd.
And blew the roof. Into adulthood, Dame Sesen gained popularity in the rural communities for her talent in folk music and dance. But it was only after her songs were recorded that she shot to national fame. Reflecting fondly on Dame Sesen on the anniversary of her passing is leader and violinist of the Mamai Lakai folk group, Augustin Julian, better known as Charlie. 1970 was the year he first met her while on a talent scouting mission with the late Frank Norville.
We met with Sesen Descartes, and we realized she was a fantastic chanterelle. And then Frank and I, we went close to her. We visited her, and she gave us her stories. And then the way she sang, her voice, we captured her voice. And then in her recording, I was able to put some instrument, a shak-shak. When she said, "Mama Ladi, why?" The shak-shak in it, I was the one who introduced the shak-shak in it. That was one of her favorite tunes. She went to sa femala pen. And it's the way she was expressing it. You know, it gives you a feeling of what she was doing. This lady had a passion in what she was doing. That is why everybody was feel pleased to name her the Queen of Folk Music.
Most notable is Dame Sesen's winning performance at the Carifta Expo in 1969. Several accolades followed, including being inducted into the Caribbean Broadcasting Union Music Hall of Fame and designated St. Lucia's Queen of Culture. Dame Sesen was immortalized in a Sir Derek Walcott poem titled Homecoming, in which he wrote, "My country, my heart, I am not home till Sesen sings, a voice with wood smoke and ground doves in it." Sesen was ultimately awarded the distinction of Dame Commander of the Order of the British Empire for her community service and cultural preservation efforts. The Monsignor Patrick Anthony Folk Research Center, FRC, is commemorating the 10th anniversary of Dame Sesen's passing by highlighting and encouraging the St. Lucian community to reflect on the values she represented and recognize their role in becoming more culturally sensitive and astute citizens. In a press release, the FRC stated, quote, "SESEN's influence transcends generations, and her work is undoubtedly etched in defining the St. Lucian identity. In the context of global and national discourse on the importance of safeguarding one's patrimony, FRC implores St. Lucians to evaluate more deeply the role legends like Dame SESEN play on our journey to reshaping our narrative as a country," end quote. The relationship between the FRC and Dame SESEN was a close one.
In 1984, we started our first Journée Creole, and this was held in Monrepo. And it was during this celebration that SESEN was honored as the Queen of Culture and Folk in Monrepo in 1984. And that also began a lot of, how would I put it? I mean, pushing forward, promoting of her songs, of her dances, and attraction, and so on.
We remember Dame Marie Salifa SESEN Descartes on the 10th anniversary of her passing. Singer, dancer, St. Lucia's Queen of Culture, who passed away at the age of 96 on 11th August 2010.
Ça pas comme une personne juste toujours comme il est. Avec tout le monde savait la vérité dans la vie. Alors, là moi dit c'est moi qui sais. Pas pour personne pour me vanter comme moi. I praise God. Qualité c'est nous trois sacrifiés. Et puis Dieu a pas jamais mis ça.
For the Government Information Service, I am Jessie Leonce reporting. Remembering the life, work, and the legacy of Dame Marie Salifa SESEN Descartes. Well, that brings us to the latest updates coming from the government of St. Lucia, the end of it. When we come back, we're due for our final break and our final segment coming up. Just going over, bringing you a synopsis of what transpired in our live update to the nation last night. Of course, we're still in phase one since the reopening of our borders and the resumption of tourism activities here on island. We're going to hear just briefly the outcome and the decisions made by the authorities in terms of us going into phase two, how longer will phase one last, and what has happened in the last few weeks. So stay tuned for that coming up in this next segment. Stay with us.
Overnight, growing national unrest.
Society, a digital cashless society, one world currency.
A vaccine for COVID-19.
Droplet
COVID virus.
Macy's iconic flagship.
Virus.
Track
the coronavirus.
Everybody
vaccinated. On the corona pandemic.
I was in a position to the lockdown.
Infected conspiracy theories
about the coronavirus.
Bizarre claims.
The truth about the origin of COVID-19 hidden from the rest of the world. And the Chinese.
In this constantly changing environment, resulting in sensory overload, cut through the noise and tune in to the National Television Network, the official source of information, all facts.
Thank you so much for staying tuned. We got an update to the nation last night, the authorities letting us in on what exists, what obtains at this point in time. We know that we're in the first phase since our reopening of the borders and the resumption of tourism activities. And just to give you a synopsis of what transpired last night, a word from the tourism authorities as well as law enforcement and also health officials. We did get word that the airlines, international airlines, that have resumed business in St. Lucia, Delta, JetBlue, and British Airways, they've since and American Airlines have since resumed their flights to St. Lucia. In terms of Caribbean Airlines, resuming Caribbean Airlines, One Caribbean, Inter-Caribbean, and Air Antilles have resumed, and countries in the bubble as of August 7th. That is as of Friday 2020. The following countries or territories form a part of the Caribbean bubble. That includes Antigua and Barbuda, Aruba, Anguilla, Barbados, Bermuda, Bonaire, British Virgin Islands, Curacao, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Montserrat, St. Barthélemy, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago. Now, while Bermuda has not been removed from the bubble, anyone traveling from Bermuda via an international jurisdiction will be treated as an international traveler, and that's a pre-test, pre-fill travel from and quarantine. Arrivals to date, the number of flights that have so far come into St. Lucia since we resumed tourism activity, since we reopened our borders, 126 flights, and the flights of visitors coming in, 3,254 visitors have so far come in. In terms of nationals, we so far had 755 nationals returning since we've reopened our borders officially. In transit, we've had 427 individuals coming in transit. And the visitor arrivals by market, the U.S. being our largest market, we've had 2,738 visitors coming via the U.S. From the UK, we've had 312 so far come through, the Caribbean 110, and Canada 26, and the rest of the world 68. Which hotels are open at this time? When we did announce that the tourism activity would be resuming, accommodation services would be resuming on island, we did not get too much in detail as to the number of hotels that are opening and getting into specific as to names. But we did get an update from the tourism authorities: Sandals Grand St. Lucian, Ladera, Sugar Beach, Viceroy Resort, Stonefield Villa Resort, Bay Gardens Beach Resort and Spa, Jade Mountain and Chasnay, Windjammer Landing Villa Beach Resort, Marigot Bay Resort, Spa and Marina, Serenity at Coconut Bay, Tête Rouge Resort, Caille Blanc Villa and Hotel, and Cap Maison. So these are the hotels that are open at this time. This list, please note, will be updated regularly as additional properties receive their certification. So the other properties are preparing their spaces, preparing their staff to become certified for the COVID-19 situation. In terms of employment, initially we had the onset of COVID-19. Persons were displaced, being laid off from their jobs, but we're seeing a slow resumption of activity at the hotels, and persons are getting employed once again from their hotels. We have Sugar Beach, 440 employees have returned to work. Bay Gardens, 59 employees have returned to work. Sandals, 515. Cap Maison, 14. Caille Blanc, 7. Ladera, 95. Stonefield, 43. Anson Jade, 120. Windjammer, 70. Tête Rouge, Coconut Bay, none as yet. Marigot Bay, 70. Sandals External, none as yet, and Halcyon, Latok, and Golf, 82. So the total number of persons who have been rehired, it's 1,433. And in terms of the contracted entertainers, we're seeing the Bay Gardens Hotel and Sandals have so far rehired their contracted entertainers. That's in a total of 54. We also have the quarantine facilities. These hotels, there are 3 hotels still being opened as quarantine facilities. That is the Starfish Hotel, and they have employed 36 persons to help with the quarantining of individuals. Bellevue, 11, and Bay Gardens, 46. The total number of taxi drivers that are certified and in operation, it's 500. The total number of dayboat operators that are certified and in operation, it's 56. And just to go over the NIC Economic Relief Program, that was spoken of last night in the update as well. The total paid out under the NIC Economic Relief Program is $34,477,497.42. So that is the update from the NIC. In terms of quarantine sites, we have, sorry about that, the quarantine, the facilities, the public health facilities. We have the Rodney Bay Public Health Facility, the Rodney Bay Public Health Facility 2, 3, and 4, and the Castries Public Health Facility. They are all acting as quarantine sites, and I mentioned those earlier. We do have the operations of quarantine, repatriations of nationals. That is 800 plus nationals who have so far come through the quarantine facilities. The total house that government operated quarantine to date, and also they receive, just to give you some additional information, they receive 3 meals for the days that they are there. The continued action for advanced levels of security during phase 1. We are still in phase 1 of our reopening of the borders and the resumption of tourism activity. That is the pilot phase. Efforts of health and government, efforts of the Royal St. Lucia Police Force continue. The protocol continue. Quarantine, a proposal has been placed before Cabinet that from September 1st to 2020, the cost of quarantine will be at the expense of the occupant. The associated cost is still being discussed and will be communicated in another update. So please take note, in many countries, especially in the region, the cost of being quarantined on the island, in the country, within the jurisdiction, is at the cost of the individual coming to be quarantined. And so far, we have benefited, nationals returning to the island have benefited from free quarantining upon returning to the country. And so please take note that a proposal is being placed before Cabinet that from September 1st to 2020, the cost of quarantine will be at the expense of the occupant. The expectations for phase 2. The inclusion of dive as an activity. We know that the water tours have been so far approved in phase 1. So that is one aspect of tourism activity that our visitors are enjoying so far. And the considerations for phase 2 includes the inclusion of dive as an activity, the opening up of more sites and attractions once certified for operation, the opening up of the villas and Airbnb properties to the international jurisdiction. It's already open to the bubble market only, but there is consideration that these villas and Airbnbs will be open to international jurisdictions, persons coming from international countries. The incident reports of protocol infringement by visitors, that was something else that was touched on by the authorities last night in the update to the nation. One visitor, as we reported earlier, was placed in government-operated quarantine and repatriated due to repeated infringements even after being cautioned. We have 10 nationals have since been placed in government-operated quarantine for violating home quarantine protocols. We've heard the story on that, and definitely the appeals by the health officials that individuals comply to home quarantine. Already, it's not the gold standard. Gold standard for quarantining globally is institutional quarantine, but in some cases, there is accommodation made for persons to be quarantined at their homes. And we do hope you are complying, because it just ruins everything for other persons who are trying to do so and stay on the straight and narrow. Yeah. Again, we did hear from the authorities, them thanking the community for their vigilance and reminding them to call 311 should they hear or see anything that is out of what is that is a breach to what is supposed to be the protocols here on island. And also we did have from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, Acting Commissioner of Police Milton Daisy, speaking on the illicit border entry into the country. So this is something that they continue to grapple with. And if you do know, again, dial the number 311 and let the authorities know if you are aware of someone who has entered the country illegally, who's coming by boat, because they really need to come back home. The situation is so sensitive that the authorities need to know what is happening. We're putting our population at risk. You're putting your family, your children at risk if you don't say something, if you see something. And of course, just the closing points that were made, all incoming passengers, including persons from the Caribbean bubble, must present a negative COVID-19 PCR test 7 days prior to traveling to St. Lucia. All arriving passengers from destinations outside the bubble will be allocated at a COVID-19 approved accommodation site or government institutional quarantine. All arriving passengers from destinations within the bubble will be exempt from the 14 days of quarantine if presenting with a negative COVID-19 PCR test 7 days prior to travel. All arriving passengers from within the bubble must have traveled directly, been in transit for less than 24 hours from a country within the bubble, and have been in that country for at least 21 days. All arriving passengers from within the bubble who have been in transit in a country outside of the bubble will be subject to quarantine for 14 days. All returning nationals from destinations outside the bubble will be subject to 14 days quarantine at a government institutional quarantine. Pre-fill the mandatory travel registration form and observe all of the island protocols. These are the requirements coming from the state officials on how we're going forward with and what obtains right now and how we're going forward with protocols as it pertains to since the reopening of the borders and the tourism activity receiving visitors into our island. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Again, this was just a roundup of the update to the nation that was aired live on NTN last night. If you want to, if you have the time to sit through, it's over an hour long. You can sit down and just digest what is being said from the health officials, the tourism officials, as well as law enforcement. A representative from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, Acting Commissioner Milton Daisy, also spoke. You can take the time to listen. We will be providing you with a comprehensive report on that update to the nation in our nightly news this evening. Well, that rounds up our morning brew. That is the NTN morning update, bringing you the latest developments from the government of St. Lucia. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Do enjoy the rest of your day. It's Hump Day Wednesday. Hold on, we're coming closer to a Friday. We do hope you have you enjoy the rest of it. My name is Jessie Leonce, signing off for now. Stay tuned for more NTN programming. Goodbye and enjoy.